So we're kicking off National FFA Week by talking to some of the organization's student leaders. We'll go ahead and go around the Zoom room here and have everybody introduce themselves, and we'll start with Lexi.
Yes, thank you. My name is Lexi Miller, and I'm currently serving as the Illinois FFA State President. I hail from the Valmeyer FFA chapter, which is right around St. Louis, but on the Illinois side.
Molly?
Hello, my name's Molly Shemp, and I'm serving this year as the Illinois FFA State Vice President. Home for me is in Central Illinois. I went to the Olympia FFA chapter.
Margaret?
Hi, everybody. My name is Margaret Boston, and I am currently serving as the Illinois FFA State Reporter, and I'm from Northern Illinois, coming from the Amboy FFA chapter.
Jordy?
So hello, everybody. My name is Jordy Oliver. I'm currently serving as the State Secretary this year. I am from Southern Illinois, from the good old Vian FFA chapter.
Emma?
Hi, thank you so much for allowing us to be on today. My name is Emma Kuntz, and I'm currently serving as the Illinois Association FFA State Treasurer this year. And I'm from the Altamont FFA chapter, which is in South Central Illinois.
And we have another one from the good state of Illinois serving as a national officer this year. Miriam, why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hey y'all, I'm Miriam Hoffman. I am serving this year as the National FFA Eastern Region Vice President, but I do hail from Illinois, the Earlville FFA chapter in the northern part of the state in Section 7, and I served as State Secretary in 2018, 2019, and it's so good to be here today.
Happy to have you all with us today. Let's kick things off. Lexi, let's talk a little bit about what your year has looked like as a state officer. I know things have been a lot different with COVID-19 regulations. Go ahead and walk us through what that's looked like.
Absolutely. So the 5 of us were actually elected on June 11th of last year, but we didn't actually get to come into the office in Springfield until July 1st, really, until the 1st of July, because of those regulations where you could only have 10 people in one place at a time. The old officers were still recording convention material, so we didn't come in until later, but we started off right away, had a great foot forward, great foot in the door already, and we started providing materials to different teachers. So we not only recorded our chapter visits, but we also provided materials with reflection questions on them in case teachers wanted to use that as a teaching material in school. Additionally, we recorded some LTS speeches, some SAE overview videos. Since then, we have been attending some different board meetings, deciding the safest option for some of our contests and conferences to take place. We've also been meeting with chapters virtually. We call those virtual meet and greets, and we also just got done with some virtual conferences. So that's a little bit of what our year has looked like so far.
Jordy, I'll pass the torch to you. Actually, I'll give Miriam a chance to talk about that on a national level and what the year has looked like so far for the national officers.
Very similarly, our year has looked pretty different than past years, but we've still done the best we can to make the most of it. My teammates and I were elected on a Zoom call back at the end of October 2020, and we didn't actually meet each other in person until January 1st. The 2 months leading up to that, we were doing some onboarding Zoom calls, getting to know each other virtually, but then we moved to Indianapolis here at the first week of January 2021. And since then, we've been doing training all day, every day during the week, and sometimes even on weekends, training, preparing keynote speeches, and preparing workshop content to deliver to students. And we've already, a couple weeks ago, we had what we call Experience Week. And between my 5 teammates and I, we visited just over 70 FFA chapters in 6 different states, all virtually. And then during FFA week, we'll be visiting over 100 chapters and state associations, covering about 30 states. So we're virtual right now. We're gearing up for some virtual state conventions coming up in March. And we're not sure what the rest of the year is going to look like after that, but we do know that we'll be staying busy connecting with students, even if it's through a screen.
Well, now we'll pass the torch over to Jordy. You know, FFA is known for its hands-on experiences and ability to learn that way, and I'm sure that's been scaled back by the pandemic, but have you guys been able to still host contests, and what does that look like for FFA members this past year?
Yes, that is a great question. And here at LFA, we adapt, we overcome. We have been working hard trying to find new ways to get members involved and still have that hands-on opportunity, even if it is through a screen. Here in FFA, we have been doing a lot of contests virtually, one being forestry, where people were able to take on that contest virtually through a screen, or like horse judging. SIU hosted horse judging not only for people here in Illinois, but because of the virtual options, they were able to open it up to a national scale contest, which is something that is so exciting, because if it wasn't for these virtual options, this opportunity might not have ever occurred. So it's so exciting to see how we are adapting and overcoming and making these new opportunities for members. And we're getting ready to do a lot of great things here in the future. Our proficiency award contests are getting ready to be held virtually, where members will be able to send in their record books, interview virtually through Zoom, and still get that lessons learned from an interview, even if it is through these circumstances. And members are getting to interview for their state degrees. They're still getting those opportunities and being able to learn those skills and grow within this organization.
Miriam, I'm sure that looks similar on a national scale, but go ahead and talk to us about what that looks like in some of the other states.
Yes, it definitely is different state to state. All states have had some similar obstacles, but there are some states that are opening up a little bit more, and that's one of the challenges for my teammates and I is being able to relate with all those different states. And so when I visited chapters in Idaho, it looked a lot different than when I was visiting chapters in Pennsylvania and Mississippi. And so being able to adapt to all those different situations and just meeting students where they're at, if they're all at home separately tuning in to a workshop, or if there's 20 of them in a classroom that are just socially distancing there. So that's been a little bit to adapt to, but on a national FFA scale in terms of competitions, we did not host our national CDEs, career development event and leadership development events last fall at convention, but we have been doing what we call CDE and LDE challenges. So it's similar experiences for students, but it's not the official competition, but it still gives students the exact same experience of trying on those different skills. So just like Jordy said, we're making the most of what we've got, and students are still getting those hands-on experiences as best as we can.
Very cool to hear that, guys. Margaret, of course, we're celebrating National FFA Week now. Can you give those dates to us when National FFA Week is and what your plans are for Illinois FFA this week?
My teammates and I are super excited to celebrate National FFA Week with the state of Illinois from February 20th through the 27th. So we have some chapter charter signings coming up. We have in-person chapter visits. This will be the first week that we've actually been out to see members socially distanced and masked up, but we are still super excited about. And we'll also be giving remarks at chapter meetings. So getting out to see those members that are just doing great things even in the midst of this pandemic. And not to mention those social media challenges that we have posted all over Facebook. You can go to our Facebook page and tag us and participate in each theme that will take place on each day, some of which are starting off Sunday or Future Friday. So we want to see what our members' journeys have looked like thus far.
Miriam, what do the national officers have planned for National FFA Week this year?
As I mentioned earlier, we're planning on visiting over 100 different chapters and state associations, delivering anything from a formal workshop or keynote to even, I have one night, there's a chapter in Colorado that's hanging out with some community members, and they're going to be making quesadillas that night. So get to make some food together on Zoom. So I'm pretty excited about that personally. And then we're also really excited to be celebrating Give FFA Day on the Thursday of this week on the 25th, which is where we're really encouraging all of us to donate just a little bit. It's not about the amount, but it's about the experiences that we get to have as FFA members. So we're encouraging everyone to donate to the National FFA Foundation, because all of us, I know, have been deeply impacted by this organization. So there'll be a lot of social media posts going out on National FFA's page, on me and my teammates' individual pages, and there's a lot of support from state associations for that as well. So we're really excited to interact with members and stakeholders throughout the whole week.
Emma, I'll pick on you next. Across the state and the nation, for that matter, there's some students that are in school, there's some students that are remote learning. How can they be involved even if they're not at school? And what's the importance of continuing that involvement during this time?
Of course, great question. Whenever we entered office, we had that question at the front of our minds. What did that look like for this year? And we've done it in quite a different way than we normally would have. Lexi mentioned those pre-recorded chapter visits. That was kind of our first project that we set out on. Usually Illinois FFA major state officers visit every chapter throughout our state in person. And we wanted to be able to offer that same experience, especially for our intro to agriculture students that are first years. We wanted to make that the same experience, but didn't really have the same options. So ended up doing some recorded opportunities and put those on our YouTube channel so that every chapter across the state could access those. Those went off phenomenally. We also had 3 completely virtual conferences, one geared more toward junior seniors, one geared towards students interested in agriculture education. And the final one, the Ground Zero conference, we just finished this week, the second week of it, which included over 600 students across our state. And all 5 of us helped create some curriculum for it and make sure that it went off without a hitch. So we're very proud of what we were able to do there. But really, our schools across Illinois have been incredibly blessed to be able to offer students remote opportunities through electronics and hotspots. We have had a great push to make sure that every student is able to access through the internet the opportunities within FFA, and we've experienced some great innovation. It's incredibly important to keep students engaged and make sure they're receiving those leadership opportunities, even if we are having quite the different year.
Miriam, I'll let you give your input on that as well.
Yeah, much like Emma mentioned, there's so many ways we can still stay connected, and I think it's important for us to remember that we want to connect on as many levels as we can, but the important thing is that we're just connecting person to person, even if that is through a screen. So even if it's just within a chapter, within just a section or an area, wherever you're at, you don't have to be at National Convention to experience the value of the FFA. One really cool story that I heard from a chapter I got to spend some time with virtually in North Dakota a couple weeks ago, to make sure students were still engaging with their supervised agricultural experiences, with their projects at home. At the beginning of the pandemic, the teacher there had this little flat Stanley doll, and she mailed it around to each student, and they would take a picture of them working on their SAE, so out in the barn or doing their research project with the little flat Stanley doll, and then they'd send it back to her, and then they'd write up a little story about it. And so it was a way to engage the students with one another in a way that sometimes we do get tired of the screen. So there's even other ways. Maybe it seems like snail mail is like going back in time, but sometimes those are the things that we need to stay engaged. And there's a lot of other chapters doing creative things like that. And that's been one of the things that's inspired me the most in this role.
Molly, it's hard to think about, but there's just a few short months left in these officer positions for the Illinois state officers. So let's look forward past National FFA Week. What are the priorities for your officer team, and what are you working on?
Absolutely. Priorities for our officer team definitely are different at this time of the year than priorities for previous teams. So at this time, other teams are wrapping up chapter visits and getting ready to come to Springfield. We are getting ready to leave Springfield. Like Margaret said earlier, we are approved to go out for in-person events. So now we're gearing up for a few in-person chapter visits coming up. We have banquets that we are looking forward to, and some chapters that are getting ready to charter. So very exciting events coming up as we begin to think about state convention and hold out a little bit longer on making those plans. We're just looking forward to being able to sit down close to a member and have a conversation with them. So that's where our priorities are following FFA week.
Definitely. That was my next question for you, Molly, was just what plans for state FFA convention look like right now?
Yeah, so right now it's a lot of brainstorming and ideas. And next month, we're looking forward to making some more on paper decisions about state convention.
I look forward to talking to you guys about that in the future. Miriam, going back to you, looking ahead past National FFA Week, what's on the agenda for the national officer team?
The big things that we're looking forward to are those state conventions, whether they're virtual or hopefully in person later in the spring and summer. But regardless, we're excited to be engaging with states like Illinois. and then we're also looking at participating in a lot of different sponsor visits, visiting those corporations and those individuals who have been generous to share their resources with those of us here at FFA that then goes out into each of the states and chapters as well. And so we'll be interacting with those, especially virtually at the beginning. But again, we'll see what the rest of the year looks like. And then moving into end of the summer and into fall, we'll be looking at what's our national convention plans going to be. But we're excited to make the most of the time we've got.
Well, I'd like to end this with kind of a fun question. I know during National FFA Week, a lot of FFA alum like to kind of go down memory lane and think about their time in the Blue Jacket. So let's have everyone share one of your most influential moments as an FFA member. And Miriam, we'll let you go first this time.
Well, I've had a lot. People ask like when I knew I was going to run for national office, and it's been a series of moments. But I like to take it back to the very first moment in that journey, and that was at my freshman year national convention. I remember sitting there in this huge convention hall. It's pretty overwhelming. It was the first kind of event like that I'd ever been to, and it's pretty dark, and there's the smoke and the lights on stage. And I remember the retiring address, the very first retiring address I ever saw from an officer. His name was Stephen Braxis. He was the Central Region Vice President at the time. And I still remember the passion and the heart that he put into his message. And I could just tell, if there are people like this in the FFA, then I want to be in the FFA. I never thought that I would ever be on that stage, that I'd be anywhere close to that stage, but I just knew that I wanted to be in the organization that people like Stephen were in. And so that was the spark that started a fire, to be pretty cliche, but that was one of my favorite moments.
Emma, would you like to share an influential moment with us?
Yeah, of course. So obviously, just like Miriam, we've all kind of experienced a multitude of those events, but I think one that kind of sticks out in my mind, especially in my current position, is as section presidents last year, all 5 of us had the privilege to serve as group leaders for our Illinois leadership camp. And I had attended as a camper, and it had been an amazing experience, but I wasn't really sure what the other side of that was going to look like, the more leadership aspect of it. And it was definitely groundbreaking in my eyes, and kind of helped me figure out why I was so passionate about this organization. I had a group of individual students who were just so different and came from every area of the state. And the group that came together and finished that week could have been a completely different group than it started with. And I remember the moment when I pulled each of the students aside to ask them kind of some debrief questions about the week and just figure out, what did they think and what could be better. And all of them, I think every single one of us cried, because it was just one of those moments where we realized that we'd become a family over those days. And that's exactly what the FFA has always been for me, is a huge group of people who support me and my goals. And so I was able to do that for others. And that definitely has motivated me to continue along this journey for sure.
Jordy, I'll let you go next.
Yeah, so I'll be honest, that is a hard question because I have no idea what to think. But the first thing that pops into my mind goes all the way back to freshman year. Coming into high school, I had no idea where I belonged. I was just there for the fun of it. We were going to see what happened. But it was so inspiring to see the FFA kids, how they were kind of like a family. Like, you go in the ag room and they were just having fun in the shop, living life, having a good old time. And it just seemed like a place where I was welcomed. I knew that I could leave an impact here and be a part of something bigger than myself. And that was really when I was like, yeah, let's try FFA. And then when it really hit me that this is a place that I want to spend the rest of my life in, this is a place that people should get involved in, was at national convention and state convention. The Illinois State Convention my freshman year, I remember sitting and watching the state officers on the stage. And I was sitting there thinking of these people, like, I'm being impacted, but there are thousands of other members sitting behind me in the same jacket that this is impacting them in their lives. It doesn't matter who you are, it doesn't matter where you come from, but like an FFA, like, you are part of this family. You put on this jacket and like, we are proud to wear this emblem. And that was so influential to me, and seeing the serving attitude of everybody. And truly, if it wasn't just for those little moments in FFA, I would not be the person I am today. So just those little moments that don't seem like anything big at the time, but when we look back, like, those were the most influential moments that impacted me to be where I am today and where I want to go in the future. So that is a great question, and it really helps me reflect and just puts a smile on my face, because I think of all the good times this organization has brought to my life, and I just love that question. So thank you so much.
You're welcome, Jordy. Margaret, I'll let you go next.
Of course, I would love to share. My influential moment kind of takes place before I was an official member of the FFA. It was my 8th grade year. So I have 3 older sisters, and the one that's above me, she was 4 years older than me. So I was at her chapter banquet, and we do this thing at Amboy High School where you retire your chapter jacket. And all 3 of my sisters, I watched all 3 of them retire their jacket to my dad. And my dad has been the most influential person in my life and really got all of us into agriculture and shared his love of it with us. And in turn, inspired me to go after it as well. And I just saw the look of just completion and love and passion on my dad's face and my sister's faces. And I just wanted to be a part of the organization that gave that to them. And I can say for certain that FFA did that for me.
Very cool. Molly, would you like to share?
Yeah, okay. So similar to Jordy, mine goes back to beginning of my FFA career. It was the beginning of my sophomore year. So I just returned from competing in a creed competition at National Convention, actually. So it had already been a very influential week. But when I got off the school bus to get ready to head home, my FFA advisor said, Molly, not many people will remember in 3 years what you have accomplished, but they will always remember what you did for them in that time. And that was such an influential moment for me, because usually when I hear a quote, I got to quickly write it down so I don't forget it. But that one just stuck. And from then on, I took to servant leadership as being the story I wanted to leave from my FFA career. And I knew I needed to start that early. So I started getting to help with the next year's creed speakers and becoming an officer. And that's really where the passion grew, was from that moment stepping off the school bus. So that was really the most influential moment in my FFA career.
And last but not least, we'll let Lexi share hers.
Thank you. I actually realized my true passion my sophomore going into junior year, beginning of my junior year, I guess. And they say when something bad happens, you realize all of the people that are around you to support you. And we had a family incident, and the very first people to step up and offer to help, whether that was in the middle of harvest, offering their grain trucks or offering their combines to help us finish harvest, or maybe it was coming and doing our chores on the farm. I had multiple FFA members come to my house, come pick me up, take me to a park to help me with my homework, to tutor me because I had missed about 2 weeks of school. And the people who helped, the very first people, were not only FFA members from the present, not only FFA members that are now, but FFA members that my dad met, that my grandpa met, that my uncle met, people that have stayed with us forever. And I think that's really when I realized that FFA is a family. It's the reason we're all here is to be there for everyone else. So that was definitely my most influential moment. Thank you for the question.
Well, I can't help but share mine as we close out here, especially in my current role with Brownfield. The many hours that I spent in the FFA job interview contest actually come to mind. I love that contest. I love the competition of it. I love that I was good at it and that I could continue learning skills. And now looking back, just a few years ago when I was in the FFA jacket, looking at how those skills of networking and communicating and learning to interview people and me be interviewed have really helped me in my job right now. That's really satisfying to see. And I can't wait to see how the skills you guys are learning and the rest of the FFA members of this generation will use those skills in their future careers as well. So I would like to thank the Illinois State FFA officers and National FFA Eastern Region Vice President Miriam Hoffman for joining us today. You can follow additional coverage of National FFA Week at brownfieldagnews.com.